What's happening, everyone? It's ReganCipher here, and I'm back with another mid-tier budget TWS review. This time around, it is the Sensemore Air from Creative. Following my review of the Outlier Pro, Creative very kindly got in touch and asked me to take a look at this model, which they see as complementary to their range rather than replacing any specific model. And the unique selling point here, the clue is in the name, is their Sensemore mode. Think ambient mode on steroids and you're pretty much along the right lines, because they share a lot of features with the Outlier Pro, such as Bluetooth 5.2 ready and the ability to customize active noise cancellation, EQ and your touch controls through the app. They've scaled down the massive charge case that you got on previous Creative models, and whilst battery life isn't quite as long on this model, it's still really impressive by TWS standards. Their IPX5 sweat and water resistance and slimline design does make them more suitable for use for exercise. So for active users who are on the go and don't like stems on their TWS, on paper at least the Sensemore Air have a lot going for them. So now I'll be taking you through all of those similarities and differences and see which model you should go for, the Outlier Pro or the Sensemore Air. But without further ado, let's dive straight into the unboxing. Now, as I mentioned in the review of the Outlier Pro, unboxing with Creative definitely has more of a premium feel compared to some of their mid-range competitors. And you would expect that to be the case given the MSRP of £69.99, although it's worth keeping an eye on Amazon for periodic discounts. And as they should, because even accounting for the Sensemore mode USP, they're still up against the likes of Soundpeats Mini Pro HS and the Soundcore A3i, both of which are very capable ANC in earbuds without a stem, which are priced a little bit lower. In the pack, you're getting a USB type A to C charge cable and your usual array of different size tips in small and large, as well as the factory fitted medium. They've done away with excess paper and have trimmed the quick start guide down quite a bit. It's only in English, but you've got QR codes there where you can scan a multitude of different languages. And visually, it's one of the best manuals around. It tells you absolutely everything from the LEDs to the controls, and it's really easy to follow whether you speak English or not. So let's move on to the charge case. If you're familiar with the Creative charge case design, which they've used on their previous releases, it's pretty hefty. Now that isn't the case with the Sensemore Air. They've trimmed that down quite a bit and made it a little bit more pocket friendly. The case weighs 47 grams. It's 6.7 centimeters by 3.2 by 4.7. It fits in the palm of your hand and it is certainly portable in comparison to that Outlier Pro case, but it falls a little way short of something like the Soundpeats Mini Pro HS. I can't help but feel that Creative took the compromises with the build of the case a little way too far. There is some friction to the hinge, but it can feel a little wobbly, and the matte finish has already started to scuff up a little bit after just 2 weeks in the pocket with keys. The traffic light LED display on the front of the case is really useful though, giving you pretty accurate estimates of how much battery is remaining in each of the buds and the case without you needing to consult the app. And they've got that handy quick charge feature of 2 hours worth of playtime from 10 minutes in the case, as well as supporting cheap wireless charging. That isn't something you always get at this price, and it's really useful if you've got wireless chargers around the house. As with the Outlier Pro, the buds sit in the case with the tips facing away from you. It's a little bit counterintuitive when you take them out of the case, so you have to kind of twist them round. In terms of the ergonomics, it's nice to see again that Creative have shunned the stem and have gone for that button style in-ear, round profile, true wireless design that sits almost flush in your ears. It's fair to say it's not the most creative approach to the aesthetics, if you'll pardon the expression, other than the LED ring around the edge, which is synonymous with Creative designs. At first glance, there's not a whole lot to distinguish them from your average budget set of earbuds. But when they're in your ears, they really do come into their own, offering pretty much unparalleled comfort and stability. They have a depth of 23.8mm, and that makes them slimmer in your ear than practically every other earbud of this type which I've tested, and certainly all of the earbuds which I've still got in my inventory. They thrash the previous smallest, the QCY T17 and Soundpeats Mini, neither of which have active noise cancellation, and compared to the likes of the Mini Pro HS, it really is night and day. So if you have problems with these type of buds staying in your ears, especially during exercise, or you're a side sleeper and you want an ANC bud to wear in bed, then the Sensemore Air definitely come into their own in this category. They've achieved this by making the surface area of the touch control area larger but flatter compared with the Outlier Pro, and similarly to the QCY T17, and that nozzle is slightly larger as well to augment active noise cancellation, which you don't have on the QCY. And we've spoken quite a bit before about the Soundpeak's double flange design that really doesn't lend itself well to any kind of movement. It seems something really simple, but it's baffling how Creative managed to keep getting the form factor right with these earbuds, but some of their competitors just never quite seem to have the same impact. And what's really pleasing is that chewing and talking doesn't loosen the fit either. With its shallow insertion into the ear canal and slimline design, when you're wearing these, they certainly feel much more mini than some manufacturers which have included mini in the name of the bud. Now, the only problem with the design is it looks a little bit generic. Reminds me actually of some of the old Tronsmar buds which I reviewed right when I was starting out. So there's certainly nothing fancy about it. It does look a bit basic, but it is without question the most comfortable earbuds of this style that I've reviewed in a very long time. And the buds are IPX5 water and sweat resistant, so you can use them for your workouts or when you're nipping out and about and there's a little bit of light rain, then that's not going to be a problem either. You also get the same voice prompts that were on the Outlier Pro, such as Bluetooth switched on, Bluetooth off, etc. As I mentioned in the intro, Creative have equipped the Sensemore Air with 6mm biofiber drivers as opposed to the 10mm dynamic drivers which were included on the Outlier Pro. They default to the AAC and SBC codecs, and you've got a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. And the first thing to note from the graphs is how much Creative have deviated from the warm sub-bassy sound which you had on the Outlier Pro. Instead, they've favoured a brighter, cleaner tuning with a leaner bass and more open soundstage. This takes Creative back to their previous releases. The Outlier Air and Gold had a similar tuning, and it gives vocals a little more room to breathe with decent tonality and a fresh feel that is pleasant and airy with improved clarity and separation. It's a very different type of sound to that of the Outlier Pro, and I personally much prefer it. The gentle rise in the upper mids gives a nice weighting to vocals and attack to percussion. Sensemore Air also have a little more in the lower mids, and the balance favours male vocals too without sounding too overemphasised. But this onus on the mid bass rather than the sub bass might leave bass heads a little disappointed, as it can feel a little detached. The soundstage has plenty of width thanks to the airy profile, although there's not a great deal of depth as you would expect from a single 6mm dynamic driver. Even so, it's a very pleasantly tuned TWS that with some minor adjustments is fun and enjoyable for casual listening.
So next up we're going to take you through the call samples. First and foremost, this is how they sound with absolutely nothing going on in the scene indoors. So this is kind of what you could expect if you've got to make or take an important call at home and you've been able to reduce all of those ambient sounds which are going on around you. The next two scenes you're going to hear is a busy coffee shop and also a busy outdoor environment where we try and replicate the daily commutes. And remember, if you want to test out how the Sensemore Air sound compared with over 30, nearly 40 different other earbuds of a similar price category, do check out my 2023 Call Quality Test Series. Okay, so we are testing the Creative Sensemore Air. This time in a very busy indoor environment. We're in a coffee shop, so we've got a variety of different noises with nearby conversations. The barista's making coffee and clanging at the tableware. Got a bit of background music in there, taboo as well. So this is how you can expect your voice calls to sound to the person at the other end of the line with the Sensemore Air. And I've used this scenario in my 2023 Call Quality Test. The link is in the comments. You should see it on the screen above me, to the left I think it is. So do check that out. You'll see how they perform in comparison to other similarly priced earbuds on the market today. Okay, so we are testing the Call Quality Outdoor on the Creative Sensemore Air. And this time around I'm moving a little bit, but I'm in pretty much the same location. It's a busy roundabout here in the UK at rush hour. And as you can see behind me, you've got a variety of different vehicles coming through. We're in a wind trap as well, so wind should be affecting the call a reasonable amount. You would expect on pretty much most true wireless earbuds. It seems to be the case. What we're looking for here is to try and replicate what you would expect if you're using the earbuds to a call on your daily commute. So you're walking to the train station, you're walking to work, school, college, etc. This is how you can expect the creative Sensemore Air to sound.
Active noise cancellation is activated by tapping twice on the left earbud under the default configuration. You've got 3 modes as you would expect: active noise cancellation on, off, and Sensemore mode. So let's start as creative intended with ambient control. You've got 2 options within your ambient control: ambient mode and Sensemore mode. Each of them have 5 strength levels. With ambient mode, I suspect you'll have this on the maximum because it's a little bit disappointing. Sensemore mode, on the other hand, is the Bud's secret weapon, which you would absolutely expect given that's their name. I tried Sensemore mode in various different environments, and the first thing that you'll notice is the flood of sound which engulfs your senses. In a supermarket, for example, on maximum strength, if you don't have a hearing impairment, then it's just going to be a fire hose of sound. Even on level 4 for prolonged use, I could hear the self-service checkouts from the other side of the store. I recommend with Sensemore mode dialing it down a notch to the 3rd strength level, and this actually performed like a very good ambient mode. Active noise cancellation isn't too bad either. Again, I tested it in various environments. Outdoors, actually, I would say it was a little bit disappointing, if anything. The only drawback with the super comfy shallow insertion style design is that it is not as effective at blocking out all frequencies as those with a larger nozzle, something like the Soundpeats Mini Pro HS. But the compromise for a bud like that is comfort and stability. Indoors, however, they surprise me quite a bit. Whilst they don't get rid of your conversations altogether, they actually perform quite well at those mid-frequency sounds. I walked around the supermarket, the same location that I did the tests on Sensemore mode, and it was pretty effective at nullifying conversations. Even without any music playing, I couldn't make out what people were saying, although I could still hear that something was going on. So all in all, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but the app is fantastic. As I mentioned on the review of the Outlier Pro, you've got a lot of control in terms of the strength level, and you've also got the ability to determine which mode is the default when you take or make a phone call. This is really useful. I've heard people mention before that they only look for earbuds where they can initiate ambient mode whilst they're on a call so they can hear what they're saying, and if you're one of those people, you're going to find this really useful. The app is great. You've got the ability to customize the controls, customize the EQ, and you've got loads of EQ settings. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail here because we covered it in the Outlier Pro review, so I recommend you check that out for details on the Creative app. But to summarize, it is a nice polished app that is really pleasant to use and quite intuitive. The buds use the Bluetooth 5.2 ready Aroa AB1562A chip. It's a reliable chipset which we've seen used by the likes of Feel and One More previously. I didn't experience any cutouts whatsoever. Now onto the battery life, and whilst it doesn't quite hit the heights of the Outlier Pro, still I think being able to hit 10 hours on a single charge is no mean feat. With ANC off, I got just under 9 hours normal listening and using the mics for Duolingo and taking the odd call here and there, and around 6.5 hours with ANC on, which still puts it as one of the strongest performance in its class. The buds also support quick charge, so 10 minutes in the case gives you up to 2 hours extra playtime, and that case will give you an additional 3.5 charges, so it's quite an impressive level of battery life, both from single use and with the case as well. So to summarize, I think Creative have done a pretty good job here in differentiating this release from the Outlier Pro. For me, if I was going to choose one of the models, it would probably be the Sensemore Air due to that improved ergonomics, the slightly improved ANC, and the crazy Sensemore mode, which Well, whilst it is a little bit of a gimmick, I'm sure you'll be able to find uses for it beyond what I was able to cover in this review. Even the areas which they've trimmed back a bit, like the battery life, using 4 mics instead of 6, I don't feel like these were real compromises because the battery life is still very good on this model, and in terms of calls, I don't feel like it was that much worse either. The big thing is the comfort and being able to use them in lots of different scenarios, and for this reason I would take the Sensemore Air over the Outlier Pro every time. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the review, and if you want even more detail, do click the link in the comment section below. That will take you through to my Headfi page, and you can click on any of the products which I've reviewed on YouTube and it will go into even greater depth. Do give the review a like if you found it useful, and subscribe for future reviews, ANC tests and call quality tests. For now, it's ReganCipher signing off.